Hi everyone, this is Erin from Sandpaper Road, and today we're making this neat happy birthday shaker card using a piece of acetate from a deli container. It's really easy to do and some fun foam that we just had on hand, so stick around.
Before I got started, I got together the deli container and a card base, which I had pre-cut, and a die from my stash. And I had pre-cut it, but before I cut it, I put a piece of this super tacky tape from Creekbank Creations. And I just want to say thank you to Creekbank Creations for providing that roll of super tacky tape. And that way, when I die cut it, it was a sticker. So I wanted to cut the container to the same, just a straight piece that was about the same size as the card. And I like using containers because it's sturdy enough to hold whatever I'm going to put as the shaker, but it's thin enough that I can use my scissors or even my paper trimmer to get nice straight lines. And I'm actually just cutting it just a little bit shorter than the actual card base. So it's about 4 inches by 5 1/4. It's just shy of the whole length of the card base. And then what I did was I took a piece of pattern paper from my stash, and this is a birthday card for my youngest son. I had already made his little banner, so I wanted to use the same paper, and I cut a panel that was 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches also, but it still had some holes from when I cut out his name, so I cut another scrap so that I could cover that up. And I'm just going to use my ATG gun by Scotch. And all these products are in, I'll put them in the description box below so that you can link to them if you want. And then I was looking for something else to just accent that, and I knew I had that little strip. It's just a little piece of this iridescent foil. I actually got it at the Dollar Tree, and I had put a piece of that super tacky tape on the back of that foil and then just cut a little strip. But when you peel off that tape, that foil is so thin. So I used a little bit of Un-Du beforehand, because then if I mess up, I could move it around. But lucky for me, I actually put it down correctly the very first time. I couldn't believe it. And then that super tacky tape was really sticky. So I was really thankful that I used the Un-Du. And I've actually made a video on Un-Du, and I will link to that as well in the description box. Then I thought, well, if I'm going to use foam and if I have this super tacky tape, I might as well just, that foam that I was going to use for my shaker is only adhesive on one side. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just make it double-sided before I do anything. So I used a little bit of Un-Du because I didn't want to gunk up my scissors. And I was really glad I did that. And now my adhesive sheet, or my foam sheet, is sticky on both sides before I even do anything. And that when that Un-Du dries, you don't even know you used it, and it's just as sticky as it was if you didn't use it in the first place. So I wanted to cut some strips, and I'm making a little foam frame for my shaker. And I don't know if you can see, there's the piece of plastic there on the table. And then now that my foam is sticky on both sides, I could just lay the little strips down, and I'm just making a little foam frame. And I was really glad that I used that Un-Du. It just made the cutting a lot easier. And I was so glad that I had that tape on there, because then I wouldn't have to use liquid adhesive or just try to use my ATG gun, which works too, but this was a lot easier. So once I got the frame finished, I trimmed off a little bit of the extra plastic, and I was happy too that I was using the fun foam instead of just regular double-sided tape, because then I had fun colors to use. So I took the happy birthday sentiment and tried to peel off the backing. I had to use my pick to do it. When I say super tacky tape, I'm not kidding. It is sticky, but it is safe for scrapbooking and card making. So that's why I like to use it. And I put that on the front of the plastic. And because I didn't want to gum up my scissors, I just used a little bit more Un-Du on the blades of the scissors and to trim off the excess. So then it was time to think of what I was going to fill inside the shaker. And I was considering trimming off the end of the panel first before I filled the shaker, but then I thought, no, that'll give me a little bit of wiggle room and then I can trim it later. So I found in my stash some beads and just put just a little bit of different colors. The back panel that I was using, the pattern paper, was just different color circles, and I thought that this would match just perfectly and just give a little bit of interest. And then with one push of that back panel, I realized that I was going to need to double up on that foam tape. So I was glad I did a test first and used more of the foam and just doubled up on the tape. It wasn't difficult at all, especially because I had already put that super tacky tape down there first. And you don't have to use beads. You could use sequins or glitter or chunky glitter or other little things. Sometimes they think they have like little like shaped glitter shapes or glitter sequins or something like that, but just whatever you have on hand that would kind of shake around and move around. I did realize, though, honestly, that even though this was easier to put down, in hindsight, once I got the card done, a few of the beads did stick to the sides of the foam. So I think in hindsight, for this kind of thing, depending on what I was using, I would consider using the liquid adhesive just because then I wouldn't get that stickiness. But this was a lot easier to do. So if you're new to making shaker cards, this might be a good place to start. Then I just took off the adhesive very carefully and got some of those beads loose, and then just put down the back panel and smoothed it down. And when I flipped it over, there was my shaker. And then I trimmed off the excess. I was really happy with that, and it looked really good. But when I went to put it on the card base, it was like it needed just a little bit of an outline somehow. And I knew I couldn't do it after the fact, so I had a piece of dark blue cardstock nearby, and I just cut another panel that was just a little bit bigger than my shaker panel and a little bit smaller than my card base. And then when I adhered down the shaker panel, then it just looked like it had just a little bit of an outline, and I was happy. That was exactly the way I wanted it to look. Then I found in my scraps, there was a sheet of cut aparts, and there was one that said My Little Cupcake, and I thought that was perfect for my youngest son, because he's my little cupcake. And so then I thought I would put that right on the outside of the plastic. I fussy cut around that because I didn't want it to be square. I just liked the way that looked. And I decided to use the Zots dots for that. They're small and they come off quick, and I knew they would definitely stick to that plastic with no problem at all. Quick and easy. Then for some final touches, I used some white Nuvo crystal drops. There was a little bit of a seam where the foam corners met each other, and I thought that the foam dots would not only give it a finishing touch, but would maybe take the attention away from that seam. And so I put just 3 areas of the dots, but then I was so irritated with the way the dots looked when I first did it that I grabbed a baby wipe and wiped it off of the plastic and then redid it again. And that was okay because it was on plastic and it was still wet, so it wiped off just fine. And there's my card. I was really happy with that. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Sandpaper Road on YouTube. And don't forget to click the bell to receive notifications. And visit sandpaperroad.com for close-up photos and DIY tutorials, or to shop for products. And all the items I used today will be in the description box, plus links to social media. And thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.